Okay, good evening, everyone. I hope our day went well, and yeah, this is the end of this is the end of the month. I was about to say a new week. So yes, would be rounding up this month. We've had a couple of things that happened this month. So we'll be rounding it up by having a general conversation with the Google AI technologies. So next slide. So yeah, ground rules basically. As usual, we should be respectful, mute your mic, especially when you're not meant to when you're not called up to speak. Engage engage so we know that we are having a proper conversation. Keep the discussion focused on machine learning and AI generally. And lastly, in everything that we are doing, we should have fun and learn from ourselves. So yeah, next slide. So the agenda is not much. I've done the welcome. We're going to have the session, and well, the session and Q&A will go hand in hand, right? And then we just see if we have any more announcements. So I think we'll just begin now so that we can finish on time and have enough time for ourselves. So yeah, the session is on Gemini, Gemma, and everything in between. Okay, so why I said everything in between was number one, it sounded cool. And number two, there are a lot of things apart from Gemini and Gemma in the Google AI space, and we'll be discussing that. And before I continue, I know Wesley wants to cut my head, but I just have to do it. We have an AI, sorry, GD for AI on the call with us, and his name is Wesley, and I'm glad he's here to have this discussion with us and um put some thoughts down because it's very interesting having someone with so much knowledge here. So yeah, you can welcome him in the chat, and I look forward to him, dropping one or two comments. So yeah, let's begin. The next slide. So let's begin, right? Um, and also, yes, I remember before I begin with asking questions, I remember I asked on the community if people would um want to talk about like their experience with the Google AI um products, and we have three people here, so I would expect the three of them to want like put in one or two things. You would answer the questions and you would give your own feedback. So Tobechuku, Abraham, and Daniel are from the Emily Lagos community, and they will also be joining me on this, so I don't forget. So yeah, let's move on. So let's start. I'll start with me. Um, so I'll start. Let's briefly explain what and Gemini and Gemma are. So to me, right? Gemma. I'll start with Gemma. Gemma. They are open models built from the same technology that powers Gemini. So you could think of them as, let's say, Gemini Light, and they are used for basically the same thing that Gemini does. And what is Gemini on its own? It's a multimodal AI model. Multimodal in the sense that it can receive several inputs and it can give you in different outputs. So it can receive inputs in form of audio, text, image, and what have you, and then it can also output it in several. So previously, I know that Gemini wasn't properly called a multimodal model, but as time goes on, it's been um on. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Like I said, it's a conversation, so I'm not the source of truth here. You can search it up and come against me and tell me oh, okay, what I said is wrong, what I said is right, and all those like that kind of thing. So it's previously wasn't seen as properly multimodal, but they've, I think, over the whole model question thing, they've worked on the multimodality, and to an extent it's pretty good. Okay, it's not fully multimodal. I remember it can't output. I don't think it can output audio, but it does the rest properly. I mean, with Imagine and the likes, it does output properly. It can only, I don't know. Does anyone know if it brings out audio at the moment? Well, I haven't tried it yet, so I can't say. Anyone? Yeah, you can unmute and like just talk. So no one. Okay, so Daniel says doesn't think so. So yeah, yeah, Daniel, you can unmute and like talk and say what you think. And also, yeah, if anyone also wants to add to what I've said about what Gemini and Gemma are, you can, you know, maybe raise your hand or unmute yourself and give it a go.
Okay. Do you mean talk about Gemini and Gemma alone or like Google AI products in general?
So let's start with Gemini and Gemma.
Sorry, could come again.
I said let's start with Gemini and Gemma first.
Okay, okay. So yeah, just like Ifeon has said, both of them are language the LLMs from Google, and Gemma is the smaller open version. Um there are different forms of Gemini. I think like there was Gemini 1, there was 1 Pro, there was 1.5, 2, and the one that recently came out, 2.5, which I think it's the best LLM in the space right now. Before I usually only use Gemini for things requiring large context length because I think they have 1 million and 2 million context length, which is actually very large. I don't even know any other models that have that context length. So I use them for things like tedious manual labor, like transcribing images and text, and other stuff that require large context. That's what I normally use Gemini for because I actually preferred other models. But this model that recently came out, I think is actually like is extremely good, and it's currently my go-to model, the Gemini 2.5 thinking model. That's regarding Gemini. So I think I think Google is really picking up the pace there and is doing good work with that. And regarding Gemma, Gemma 3 is also actually impressive, and I think it also came out recently. Gemma 3 is the latest version of Gemma, and like she said, it is a multimodal language model, so it can accept images, it can accept text. And what actually surprised me is that this Gemma 3 actually has a higher ELO score in the LM Arena or Chatbot Arena. Like it has a higher ELO than DeepSeek, the 671 billion parameter DeepSeek model. The 27 billion parameter Gemini outperforms that. So that was actually impressive to me. And it's also like I think I saw on the website on the landing page that it can operate in 140 different languages. So it is, I think it's very impressive. I also had a bias today because, like, for open models, I usually preferred Llama, especially because it felt like Llama paved the way. But Gemma is really like swaying me. I think it's a great model. Something I'm really looking forward to maybe using in the future.
Thank you very much, Daniel. I can't even say much on Gemma because the last Gemma version I used was Gemma 1. And to be honest, I think I stopped at Gemma. So because I'm focused on computer vision, right? When Gemma came out, I was psyched and I was like, oh, I want to set it up. And then I loaded the notebook and the notebook was so long, the configuration was a lot, and I told myself that I'll get back to it. And then Gemma 2 came out and I was like, oh yeah, that's true. Let me fix my Gemma configuration. Gemma 3 is coming out now, and I'm like, I'm way behind. So I can't even say much about um Gemma, but I use Gemini a lot. And if you answered or you're already going to the next question that I was going to throw to the public. But before we go to that question, yeah, I use Gemini a lot. Like Gemini is apart from ChatGPT, right, that I use for my tasks because my I have a lot of messages or chats with it, and it's kind of personalized to me to a great extent now and knows what I want. Apart from that, I always use Gemini because of the context length. So which lead me to my next question, and this question is for everyone. So I'll need you to type in the chat. You can raise your hand if you want to speak. You can unmute yourself and tell us. So our next question says, what's your favorite use of any of Google's AI tools? I would Daniel already mentioned one for manual labor tasks. May I mention it's for basically getting more answers, and the fact that the whole search thing, it's so integrated into search, especially if you are using the user interface is so integrated into search that you can easily just get like the links. And I know other platforms or other GPTs do it, but Google's one is very good, and the fact that it actually validates for you, right? You know if this is true or not true, like you'd see it there. So that's like I use it for validation. So and that's one of my favorite use cases, especially when I'm searching or doing maybe research. So yeah, anyone wants to go next?
Okay, so yesterday I just like took out time to explore the Google AI Studio, right? And it's something that like really caught my attention. And okay, stuff that I also found out like around just Gemma is how that like these agentic workflows and stuff here. So the Gemma models are kind of focused on making those workflows really accessible, right? So you can you can like integrate Gemma into like your agentic workflows because they've been pre-trained to work with stuff like function calling, code execution, and stuff like that. So, and then looking at the model sizes and how they planned out the distribution, you have stuff models from like as little as 1 billion parameters. But obviously, like the performance will take a hit and stuff like that. But just seeing the fact that you could have such a small model able to run like agentic workflows, just when you start thinking about stuff like maybe edge devices, running models on like maybe Raspberry Pi devices and stuff like that, it just becomes more feasible. Right. So I think that one thing that Google has really nailed, in addition to the context switch, which everyone has obviously talked about, is how that you can actually integrate the solution into so many practical use cases in terms of like you're going to be making products and stuff like that because of just how good they are in terms of generalization. And then I think to the point of how they're able to handle like the multimodal output also, not just input. On the Google AI Studio, there's actually the streaming feature, and I've not explored too deeply, but I believe that everything that works on the Google AI Studio is also available through like the APIs. So they also have this streaming feature where you can literally stream video content and you can ask questions with audio, and then it would also respond back to you in audio. Okay, maybe obviously it's probably be outputting like text and then have another engine that would like um convert that text into audio, but still there are workflows that are able to make it more or less seamless. So you can speak to the model, show it content. You can even share your screen like in the way like in this meeting, right? So you could literally share your screen and then ask you questions about what's going on your screen and stuff like that. Kind of like what I think OpenAI kind of demoed something like that the other time where they had this agent that could like go through like websites on your behalf and do stuff, right? So yeah, so I think that just the ability for the models to generalize and to be able to handle multiple scenarios in terms of like not just like multimodal now, but in terms of like function calling, grounding with search, code execution, structured outputs, and stuff like that, just makes it really usable in terms of development use cases, not just like chat conversations, really.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, honestly. And so the fact that we that the fact of that streaming, the whole streaming, then I tried it once, and honestly I was actually mind blown. I've always been skipping the feature on Google AI Studio. Well, I don't know what led me to it one day, and to be honest, it felt mind blowing, and the fact that it was quite accurate and it gave like a couple of things that was a very that was a very very helpful thing for me at that point. And I feel like it is the fact that it's taking the live audio for me, and it's it's like interpreting it. I don't even know how to explain it. It felt like magic the day I was using it. It felt like magic. And there are other ones there, so I know there's something around audio. It takes in the audio and the video together, and that makes me it was making me think, how is this thing actually done from the dev side of things? Like, how are these people creating magic? I know they mentioned there was a particular project they mentioned in IU of last year. I can't remember if it's, I don't know whether it's Astra or I can't remember the exact name. They mentioned it, and it's quite similar to what this does. It's, I think it's video search, if I'm not even mistaken. And it was really, really cool, right? That I could do something like that just from AI Studio. We're still coming to AI Studio. I don't want to go into like AI Studio yet, because that's like that's my favorite. I don't want to start ranting, because if I start talking about Google AI Studio here, I don't think we'll live till like 12 p.m. Everybody's just going to get tired and leave. But before we move to AI Studio, let's start with Gemini, right? Next slide. So starting with Gemini, right? The next question I would want to ask is that what distinct difference or differences do you notice in the several versions of Gemini? So this again is thrown to everyone. I know that everybody's quiet, sha. You can type in the chat section if you want to type, unmute yourself, and tell us what, if you're a conversant user of Gemini, like, what have you noticed in the several versions? For example, I noticed that 1.1 wasn't giving me very accurate answers, in the sense that, or and 1 and 1.5 actually. What I noticed is that the answers were looking to, let's say, oversave, in the sense that the thing was just misbehaving. Like, he just, instead of it to answer the question, is as if he's worried, like an overthinker. That's one thing I noticed, one major difference. But in other versions, it's more direct, and it's like it's more brief or confident in the answers now. That's like one thing I noticed. And also the answers, obviously, they sound smarter than previously to how they used to sound, and I think that's progress. So yeah, any more anyone with maybe different views or different opinions?
Yeah. So I think they are kind of like given options depending on who is using it and the use cases. Although I don't know if anyone is still using the 1.5 series, but okay, for like example, the 2.0, I think, is it light or something they call it? I know there's one that is for kind of like low latency requests. Maybe if you don't want to use too much heavy network, or maybe if your network is bad and you just want quick answers, maybe concise something, maybe you can use that one. There are some for like very, very, very heavy, I think in the 2.5, maybe image generation and real-time streaming, things like that. Some kind of have like a limit on the amount of data they can process. Just like you said, some, if you feed them with too much amount of data, they will just hang on the spots there. While some, if you give them that same large amount of data, they are able to kind of like process it even at a faster rate, which is quite cool too. So I guess as they were working on different versions and improving it, they were also simultaneously just creating different models for different use cases that people could use. So everyone has something. If you just want something that's lightweight and something just concise, maybe just sharp answers or one-liners without having to worry about, because sometimes you might be loading up an answer and then your network will just go and then it will just hang in the middle there. Maybe you have to refresh or something like that. So you can use like a model that will just give quick answers even under harsh conditions. While if you just want something very robust and something very elaborate, I think that's what their latest models, the 2.5, is mostly suited for too. So I guess that's what I mostly noticed about it.
Okay, thank you, Tobichiku. Yeah, I would like to ask Wesley actually. Um, sorry if I put you on the spot, but like, what are the distinct differences you've noticed in the several versions of Gemini? As
Hi, fun. I don't know. So I think the differences that are probably can say of head that I've noticed over time is one, for instance, the context window. Gemini 2.0 came with about 2 million tokens as its context window, which meant that you can, for each prompt that you provide, you can get almost an entire novel out of it. The current version, Gemini 2.5, which is still experimental, has about 1 million tokens. Then also the core parts or benchmarks that these models are hitting. For instance, 2.5 right now, I think is the best model you will find currently that is good at reasoning and coding compared to the previous versions or any other large language models that are on the internet right now. And then you also see, starting off from the early versions, Gemini 1 to now Gemini 2.5, at least you'll see there's been improvement in multimodality. I know multimodality came in at around 1.5. Image generation became standard when it was Gemini 2.0. But now when it comes to Gemini 2.5, when the experimental part is done, videos will be rolled out, and audios are now much better. Also, I think something that you may also a little bit notice is the knowledge cutoff for almost these models. I think there is no model currently that has data or information in 2025 except Gemini 2.5, the experimental version. Its cutoff, knowledge cutoff was on 30th January. So that means it has almost current information. maybe with an exception of Grok. So Grok relies on feeding, it can know current stuff, but it's not natively trained on it. And then maybe the other thing is with Gemini 2.5, we're going to see MCP being rolled out. That is maximum control protocol being implemented within the entire Google suite, like every product everywhere. Because previously we've had issues with AI overview. You make a Google search and then what AI overview brings is not clear enough. Issues with summarizing emails, doing schedules, getting the AI assistants to do things, like for instance in Android Studio and everywhere. So that is going to change with Gemini 2.5. It's going to be underlining every product where you can use it to perform tasks and everything. So that's what I can say for now.
Yeah, that's quite a lot, and that was quite informative, really. I think that makes a lot of sense. And looking at MCP, if I remember correctly, it's Anthropic that introduced MCP, right?
Yeah, they did, but then their scale is not as Google's scale. But yeah, they did.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've been seeing MCP running around, right? But I haven't sat down once. I mean, I've been lazy these past few days. I haven't sat down once to go through what actually MCP is. But a lot of people have been discussing about it, and I think it's high time I move into what MCP is actually about. But thank you very much. That was quite insightful, and a couple of things that we missed, you touched on it. So yeah, we'll be going to the next question. Um how does Gemini fit into your workflow? Anyone before I go? Anyone can answer this. Or we don't use Gemini in our workflow. When I mean workflow, I mean like our day-to-day activities. It's like also what's the use case of Gemini, or sorry, Google AI technologies. I mean, how does it fit into your workflow? Maybe perhaps you are working and you provide Gemini with your document, and then it gives you um the summary. Or okay, yeah, okay. Speaking of which, how it fits into my workflow is if I record the meeting, I just pass in the link from my drive and I ask you to give me the transcript of the meeting, and then you should summarize it. And that's all. That's how I use it in my work, because sometimes I can't sit down in a meeting that is 2 hours long and be trying to listen to it. Like, why? I just provide Gemini that, and then it should record, or it should give me the transcript and key points in it. So that's one thing I use it for. Anyone want to go next? Since I was made to go first. Going. No one uses Gemini. Or am I on the wrong am I on the wrong call? Or no one heard the question?
Um, for me, I mentioned it earlier actually that I use it for things that might be tedious, like for example, transcribing notes or transcribing lab reports or transcribing equations, because um sometimes you might have an equation that isn't like in the form of text but is an image, and like start writing it in plain text can be quite difficult. So I'll just take the picture of the equation, put it into Gemini and get it transcribed. That's one way I use it. And another way I use it is, I also mentioned this earlier, it's for things that require large context length. So if the prompt is like extremely long, and I expect like a long response, or I expect to continue iterating over like a long time. Maybe I'm coding, for example, where would have to go over and over and over again. Uh, Maybe I'm vibe coding, for example. I would need something that can really like, you know, can really bear the length of the text, and I think Gemini is suited for that.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And even speaking of which, I also use Gemini for, apart from the meeting transcript, I use it for writing code sometimes. And to be fair, it works 70% of the time. Like, it works better. I mean, Claude still kind of shines over Gemini in some parts, but I've not tried. I've not compared 3.7 and the 2.5 yet. I think I used it last. I'm going to do that comparison maybe tonight. I'm going to give them both questions and ask for their input. I would see how they fare really. Um, and yeah, that's it. By the way, everyone is very quiet. I mean, if you have something to say, you can always just unmute. I know there are a lot of bosses here and a lot of big people that have something to say, but maybe they're shy. Nobody's going to come for your neck. We're all right here, and it's just the level of it, the degree of your rightness that we're looking at. So no one can be 100%. You say it's from how you do, and just tell us. So we'll be spending the next couple of minutes talking on one of my favorite tools in the world, or actually my favorite tool in the world, which is Google AI Studio. So yeah, we're talking about Google AI Studio and its offerings and like everything about it. So next slide. We're talking about like I said, we're talking about AI Studio and why it is the best thing in the world. So um a question that I will pose to everyone. Can we say Google AI Studio is the best now sliced bread? The answer is yes. Mhm. But if it is no, I would like your answers, and I would like why it's not the best thing after sliced bread. Probably there's something before it that we should know about, or there is a tool before Google AI Studio that we should know about that is the best or better than AI Studio. And if it's not, or you agree with me that Google AI Studio is the best thing, you can talk about the features that you know make you happy the most when using it. You can talk about the features you love the most. You can talk about the feature you don't like, and probably the feature you wish they could integrate. So yeah, anyone can go. I won't go first this time so that I can prepare my speech on why Google AI Studio is the best after sliced bread.
Okay. Uh, well, I don't think it's the best thing after sliced bread. I think it's actually a fantastic tool, but no. So I think my biggest issue, I will just talk about the criticism first, which is not much, but um, sliced bread is cheap, right? And Google AI Studio is not cheap. So to use Google AI to like the biggest or to like the max capacity, just to explain that, if you are talking about, let's say, the tokens, for example, if you check the amount of tokens you have and you want to use to the maximum, basically, let's say you are trying to build like this really, really large scale application. You're going to run into some very, very, very expensive costs. So I do believe out there are alternatives, much more cheaper alternatives. They might not be as fantastic or as sophisticated as a Google AI Studio, but I feel you could always find workarounds just to cover up those costs. So yeah, it's close to that, but not exactly there. But that aside, I think Google AI Studio is actually a very, very great tool. Personally, for me, I do use it a lot for even less technical stuff. And one of the great things about it is the more you use it, the more you get more ideas on things you could use with it. Like, for example, the other day I was trying to read some articles on the web about finance, NASDAQ, and the rest, because I've been trying to know more about finance. And I just used the live streaming when you're sharing your screen stuff. And I basically just told it, okay, as you are going around here, just explain things to me in a very, very slow tone, or expatiate everything you're talking about in the article. Make sure you explain it very, very well. So, and as I was scrolling through the article, it was just walking through. So I think it very, very much helps in research, especially when you're researching in areas where you have like zero clues about it. And then, like I said, it gives you a lot of ideas. The other day too, I was working on a prompt, or I was using a system prompt where I told it that I just basically configured it to always explain any single thing I ask it, explain it like I'm 5 years old. And I just suddenly got the idea that, oh, I mean, if I ever decide to experiment with the API keys part of it, I could plug it into an application that helps people explain things like they are 5 years old, basically. So it has a very, very robust and very flexible functionalities, and it's not something that you have to be very technical to use, or very, very, or like an engineer to use. Like, anybody can use this tool for anything that they are doing. So yeah, I think it's a very, very great tool.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for destroying my morale against sliced bread. I'm a Google AI, but I'll take that. I'll take that. You had fair points. Yeah, Abraham.
Okay, so I think that I don't know about it being like to Bichiku's point. I don't know about person after Saturday, but I think one thing I like about it is the fact that you could literally experiment with it. Like it's kind of like a notebook, quote unquote, for the API, right? Because like after experimenting, you can then simply extract that code and then add it to whatever project you're working on. So maybe, for example, you're trying to maybe develop a workflow that you want to behave in a particular kind of way. You can literally play with it within the studio, and then by the time you're done and you like what you see, then you could just use the get code button on the screen, right? And you just have that code that does exactly what you want to do and stuff like that. So I think it really helps you to like save time, to just get a feel literally of what you're trying to do, and then you have the code implementation for that already to then plug into what you're doing. So I think that's something that's really cool about it also.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? Me, the first reason why I like Google AI Studio is because it's free. Like when you go to aistudio.google.com, it's free, and you can always compare with several models. Like maybe you want to compare 2.5 experimental with 1.5. Like, oh, okay, this is the difference between the two of them, and you can see them in real time. And also, they have free API keys that you can use to demo, unlike OpenAI that you have to pay to see the keys. So that's one thing I love the most about Google AI, and the fact that it's linked with my Google Drive. It's like a very seamless integration. I literally go there. Once I type A on my Chrome, is AI Studio. That's the website that is coming up, because I have so much that I do with it, and the fact that it's actually with my is integrated on my drive, because I use Google Drive a lot, right? It just makes things very, very easy for me, and I can do endless and limitless things with it. So I would agree with what was on the screen. But yeah, Daniel, you can go next.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. So another thing I like about Google AI Studio in particular is how I think it's the easiest and freest way, in a sense, that I am aware of, at least, to tune a model. I've trained, I've fine-tuned different models with it. Although it's a bit unfortunate that I think on the website the best base model you can train is the Gemini 1.5 Flash, but it's actually very useful if you want to train a model for different cases.
Yeah, thank you. Speaking about it being easy, some people mentioned that it's quite hard to navigate. I've seen takes like this on Twitter. How true is that?
I guess maybe the technical terms. I think in the UI, there's the fine-tune models. I think they call it model gallery, library, and some other stuff. So I guess maybe when you first look at it, there's a lot of information that looks technical, but it's not really technical. Um, I I guess it's just about just within, if you just play around with it. One thing I like to, whenever I want to use a new tool like this, especially these AI tools, I just start clicking around. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? So I just click around, check around. Okay, what does this do? What does that do? And one thing about Google AI Studio is that if you click around and like get curious enough, within a very short time, you will actually very get accustomed to it. So at first glance, it might seem a bit difficult to use, but it's actually very, very easy and smooth to use. Like everything you need. And just like you also mentioned, the syncing with Google Drive, you can save your prompts, the fine tuning of models and stuff. Like it's actually very, very user friendly. If the person is brave enough to just start with it. Yeah.
Thank you. Before we, because I think the next is Q&A. Is anyone familiar with Vertex AI? So I'll take that. No one is familiar with Vertex AI. That's the cloud offerings of Google AI on GCP. Yeah. So I'll take that as a no. Well, Vertex AI, like I said, is just like everything that we're doing, but on Google Cloud, so you can access the AI tools on Google Cloud via Vertex AI. So yeah, I won't be asking questions on that because I know it's quite hard to use because of the you have to get the credits, and credits are expensive. But for people like me that don't have money, it's expensive. So yeah, Q&A. Does anyone have any questions? So after all that we've discussed, are there no questions that someone could come to your mind and be like, oh yeah, I have a question? Or everyone understands what Gemini or basically the Google AI family offers? Let me see like a thumbs up first so that I'll know that I'm talking to human beings. Okay, so yeah, I'll take that as you've tried. So yeah, next slide, since there are no questions.
Well, if I was going to ask, it seems like you are like more in tune with the Google AI tools space. So, from your experience, what would you say the field is compared to like tools like maybe GPT-4 or Mistral or some of those other LLMs in your experience or working with those tools? I don't know if you've worked with it like from a development perspective or just like chatting with them. What has been your experience, like a comparison across?
Okay, so I'll make that brief because I don't have much experience with working with them. The only time I've used OpenAI was on NLP tasks actually, and I it was just NLP basically and meta prompting. But so far, I would say the 4.0 mini actually it works pretty well and it's quite smart. Because I think that's what they have on their API at the moment. I've not checked if they've like added more models, but yeah, that's it. I've not used Mistral before. I am more Google inclined because they are free. That's why. But if you have money to give me, I can always experiment and build. I build stuff with Gemini because it's free. But if you have like some funds to give me, I can always do some experiments. But so far between GPT and I would say they have their strengths and weaknesses. 4.0 is very good with NLP tasks, and I would say maybe image generation to an extent. But Gemini 2 with Imagine 3, they've been really, really good with their image generation. When I use it for image generation tasks, they are perfect. But I haven't used on production level. I think on production level it has just been Gemini and 4, and like I said, they have their strengths and weaknesses. I'll still put 4 for maybe NLP tasks. For code generation, that's maybe you're doing like tab 9 kind of thing or autocomplete. I would say Gemini works perfectly on that. So yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, okay, cool. But I mean, Mistral is also free. Like, I mean, there's a bunch of free models that you can actually use with Olama. I don't know if you explored running models locally. There's a bunch of free models that actually work well. Like I know Llama 3.1 does quite well, even for the 8 billion parameter version, because like it's able to understand um context and give like relatively smart answers. Okay, although Mistral is a bit more mechanical and DeepSeek just likes to yap. But yeah, so if you explore on the Olama model reposition, there are a couple of cool models out there also that you could try for free. You don't have to have plenty on quote unquote. I know.
Yeah, I mean on Vertex AI, I have access to testing those models, but I'm always very I don't like testing new things like that. I'm very scared, so I would do my best to test it out. On Vertex AI, you have access to a lot of and tons of models, even going back to Palm, like Palm, you can use Palm on Vertex AI. So I think maybe I will do that actually. I just need to be a bit flexible, to be more flexible and face my fears. That's my major issue. But apart from that, yeah, I know Olama. The last time I tried running it on my system, it almost crashed my system. I don't know why. But I tried one of these models. My system literally like froze. I had to restart it. So I will look for local versions and run it and probably do some things to test it. But apart from that, yeah, thanks for the info. I'll check them out. So any more questions? So I'll take that as a no because we're almost approaching 7, and 7 is the time we're going to end. So thank you very much everyone for joining. Next slide, please. So yeah, our upcoming events. So like we know, today's the last day in March, and our upcoming events are just 2 in April. So yeah, we have just 2 events in April as no, yeah, go back. We have 2 events. Our office hours for those who don't know office hours, we bring GDs or Google employers to talk about the Google AI section things, and maybe run us through a tutorial. And yeah, we would also be having our April technical session, so something like this, but I don't know if it's going to be a conversation. Yeah, but if you want more conversations or you want like more roundtable, I would say you should fill our feedback form to tell us so that we know what to do. Next slide, please. So yeah, do follow us on Twitter or X and LinkedIn for more updates, and so that would be superstars. So we'll have plenty followers. So yeah, we like your feedback. Please drop your feedback, and we go through the feedback, and we've been working on it. And thank you to everyone that has been feeling it, because it has been really positive. We have a rating from your feedback of 4.93, and that's like very impressive. So I would like that means we're doing something right, actually. So yes, thank you everyone. Please fill the form. If you have anything that you want to say, you can always send us an email or anything, or send me a DM and I'll respond. So thank you very much everyone for joining. Happy new month in advance, and enjoy